G'day everybody, it's Kim here from Kyms Homestead, and this week I'm bringing you another week of what's to eat, starting off on Wednesday and going through until Tuesday evening. So what did we have? Well, I'm starting off this at Wednesday evening for tea time. And tonight I'm going to have a slice of tofu, about half a cup of mixed stir-fry veggies, and this one is the sweet honey soy, which turned out really nice. I'm very pleased with the Wok stir-fry mix. It marinated the tofu beautifully. I just pop it in a glass jar with a bit of the marinade underneath and pour some over the top. And I save a little bit later on to go on the veggies as I'm stir frying them. Then I pop them in the fridge for later on. In the meantime, I start getting the vegetables ready. I have a little bit of carrot there, all chopped up into nice thin slivers. And then I'll start with some onion. And I just chop it up, not quite into slivers, but into slightly chunkier pieces so that they're easier in the stir fry. Then I've got one of my homegrown bell peppers, or capsicums as we call them. This one was just on its way to turning red when I picked it. The only thing with capsicums, they've got a lot of seeds in them, which are hard to get out sometimes. Then I've got a couple of button mushrooms. And next is some bok choy. This is all organic bok choy, so it was a little bit bug-ridden, but it was all right. You learn to eat around the bugs when you go organic. Now I've got just my cast iron pan with the little ridges in the bottom, just to give it that grill look. And we're just going to grease the pan and pop in the tofu. As I said, the tofu came up beautifully. I really was pleased with it. I had tofu a few years ago, and honestly it was like eating polystyrene or cardboard. I wasn't wrapped in it, but this one was pretty good. The marinade gave it a reasonable amount of flavouring without being too overpowering, which was really nice. Just a nice subtle taste. Now I'm getting the other pan ready for the vegetables. There we go. See those lovely ridges? It looks like it's been on a grill. Doesn't take long for tofu to cook up. It virtually only needs to be heated through. You just adjust the camera there a little bit so that you can see the vegetables in the other pan. That's better. The vegetables are just starting to go a little bit softer now, which is good. And it'll be time to add the rest of that marinade in with them. There we go. In goes the marinade. That'll give the vegetables some nice flavour. And in goes the bok choy and the rest of the marinade. Now I'll just pop the lid on and let it steam the rest of the way through. There we go. The tofu's ready. And that's what the final product looked like. It was delicious. We actually had enough for lunch the next day. There we go. And I actually left half of that. And there's my lunch. And a neighbour gave us some, what do you call them, quiches. So that's what we had for tea that night. Friday, I decided to have the rest of the quiches with a slice of the tofu. I had given the neighbour down the back a heap of veggies the other day, and she rewarded me with 4 nice little quiches, which was incredibly nice of her and very much appreciated too. So here I am dishing up the quiches, and I have half, and the other 1.5 goes to my carer who now lives with me, and a slice of tofu. So, and that was a lovely tea time. Today I am making something out of this great big boat of a zucchini that I found in the veggie patch, and I decided to make some mock pineapple rings. Now, when I pulled out the pineapple rings the other day and made ham and pineapple, I found I only had 1 can left in the pantry, so it was time to restock a little bit, and I thought, well, I may as well restock with the really large zucchinis that I get, and what I made out of it will last probably a good 12 months. So all I do is cut the ends off and peel it, and now I'm just taking out the seeded centre and making them into rings. Then I pop them in the jars to whatever size they fit. Some of them I've got to push in a little bit more, and some just don't fit at all. Nope, there we go, bigger jar, that's better. They turn out really well. I was very pleased with them. Now put some little bit of vinegar and hot water into a container that I've got the lids in, and I'm just using pineapple juice off of the pantry shelf, that one that I bought earlier, that one of the grocery hauls, and this is what I was going to do with it. It eventually made 5 jars. Now I'm just debubbling, topping up and wiping the rims and popping on the lids. Then they'll all go in the bubble bath for 15 minutes. On goes the lid. Make sure it's nice and tight. Don't screw it down too much, it's too tight, but just like firm finger tight. Some of them I've got to push that skewer down a little bit to try and get to the air bubble. Of course, once I push it down there, it's a bit hard to get it out too. Just making sure everything's good. And it's ready for the bubble bath. Right, Saturday tea time. For lunch that day, I had a friend come over and bought me a ham salad roll, which I had half of it for lunch and half later on that evening. But for tea, I decided to make some zucchini fritters. I had a few zucchini out on the bush the other day, so I went out and picked all the young ones and grated them all up. They were lovely and tender and tasty. It was hard work, all that grating. There we go. I'll just put that aside and squeeze out all the extra juice a little bit later on. Now it's time to do a bit of onion. Oh, not quite finished with the zucchini. Now I'm doing the onion. Probably could have done with another 1 or 2 onions. These were fairly small out of the garden. And of course I did 2 carrots as well. You see some nice strawberries I got off my plants when I went out to get the zucchini. They were waiting to go into the freezer. Here I am pulling out the pineapple out of the bubble bath, ready to cool down. Don't they look beautiful? They look just like pineapple rings. Five jars of mock pineapple, ready to go in the pantry. Right, time to squeeze out that zucchini, and I'm just using a ricer, and I just fill it up with zucchini shreds and squeeze as much as I can out of it. Try and dry the mix out as much as possible. I get a fair amount of juice out of it, which would have just made the fritters sloppy if I hadn't have squeezed it all out. You don't need a ricer, you can just use an old tea towel. It's very thirsty work, you know. And just put it all in there and squeeze out as much as you possibly can. But I had the ricer and I thought I'll see how that goes. I'd probably leave out the salt because I added some chicken stock powder and I found it was just a little salty. Pancake mix, and I actually added another half a scoop to that mixture as well. And just pop it in a fry pan with some hot lard or oil if that's what you have. And it doesn't take long and it's all cooked. And I've got the oven on, and as each layer is cooked, I just pop it on a cake rack that's over a biscuit tray or sheet pan or whatever you like to call them. They go in the oven and stay hot and crispy until it's time that they're all done. And there we go. And served up with your favourite condiment. Mine was a little bit of tomato sauce. And these we had for lunch the next day. Sunday tea time. Tea time was a chicken crumbed schnitzel, just one of the supermarket varieties, and just some vegetables. Now those were my own potatoes that I grew, and honestly one of those schnitzels was quite large and I could have chopped it in two and had half each. So there's the potato all done, a little bit of salt and butter or pepper and butter, and just the carrots that I canned earlier and the last of the corn that came out of the garden. So aside from the chicken schnitzel, these vegetables all came out of the garden this year, all homegrown, organic, no pesticides, none of that. I was quite pleased with that. This was a huge tea for me. I only got through a small amount, and unfortunately the rest had to go out to the chooks because that schnitzel was just huge. And a little bit of chicken gravy to go over the schnitzel and the potatoes. And there we go. That was tea. Monday lunchtime. Just my favourite cream of chicken soup and a nice fresh orange.
So after lunch I decided to start tackling the mountain of vegetables that I'd brought in from the garden, and I decided I'll make salsa out of this lot. So I decided to chop up all the tomatoes into dices and pop them away into this large container. It took me a little while to get through all those tomatoes. They'd all been washed and put aside and ready to deal with. They had all ripened up on the counter beautifully, and there was some really nice tomatoes there. Half of them I'd already given away, so it was time to deal with them. And I thought, well, a couple of jars of salsa in the pantry would probably be a good idea. I know it's going to take probably a few days to make the salsa. I didn't think it'd actually take that long, but it's actually taken me 2 or 3 days and I still haven't finished yet. So you'll probably see the outcome of making the salsa in the next video. I have actually had quite a few visitors over the last few days, so all I've been able to do so far is just chop up a few veggies and get it ready. It's sitting in the fridge, so it'll sit there for a day or two, no problem at all. I may have to drain a little bit of liquid out of it, but that's fine. I'll turn that tomato juice that I get out of it into something else. These tomatoes that I'm processing are mainly the what do you call them? Marmons something. I can't remember at the moment. They're a big slicing tomato, so they're actually quite juicy. So they will make a fair amount of liquid. And there's a couple of the ox hearts in there as well, and a couple of the giants that I've got growing down in the veggie patch. The ones you see behind me are the paste tomatoes, so those ones I'll actually put in a plastic bag and in the freezer. And in between a few tomatoes I give the top a bit of a wipe over. As I said, they're quite juicy, producing a lot of juice and seed and everything else. And that's what we had for tea, just a quick salad because I was busy. A whole heap of onions to deal with, all the onions that came out of the garden. So it was time to do something with them. So what I've decided to do is separate the different varieties. I've got 3 different varieties. One is the brown onions that you see here. I'm taking out all the small ones and I'm going to pickle them. The larger ones will go chopped up in the salsa and in the freezer. The sweet white onions will be pickled onions, and also the red onions that I have, they will also be turned into pickled onions. Once I got dealt with all of those onions, I haven't made the pickles yet. I've just decided to put them aside for a moment, and I needed to deal with this huge big ham I had in the fridge before it started going off. So not that it would, because it's cured meat, but they do sometimes tend to grow a little fungusy if you don't deal with them. So I decided to slice up whatever I could for sandwich meat, which I'll parcel up into little 2 sandwich lots and put in the freezer. And the rest of it I'm going to chop up into little cubes so that I can use either in eggs, in soups, in pizza, as pizza topping, which is what I do with some of this tonight for tea. So that's what I finally do with the rest of this ham. And the ham bone itself, great big thing that it is, will go in the freezer, and I will make a ham and split pea soup come winter time. I was having a problem with a pesky little fly. I couldn't spray anything. I had what I could covered over, but this rotten fly, it just annoyed me something chronic. So I eventually got it, but in the meantime it just kept on bothering me. This bone was fairly big, and I really had to sort of go around the outsides and gouge out at it a bit to try and get as much of the meat off as I possibly could. So I think I'm going to get a container here at the minute, and the cats were hanging around at my feet, so I decided to drop a piece down to them as well. And here's where I go and get the container. Now that was eventually filled right up, that and another little dish as well. And I'm pretty sure I got two 2-cup bags out of that. Plus I've got some in the fridge to make, scrambled eggs with or whatever in a few days' time. I tried to chop it up fairly small, just into, you know, really little miniature size bites. I thought, well, that'll be good for just about anything that I decide to cook with later on. Being a nice smoked ham, it should add quite a lot of flavour to anything that I decide to cook with it later on. Now I'm getting ready to make that pizza. So I decide on a ham and pineapple. If you're going to eat pizza, you may as well have your favourite. And mine is ham and pineapple. So the pineapple's one that I canned, about 12 months ago. I'm still working away at it. I had these little sachets of pizza sauce, so I thought one sachet between the two and some left over to put in the salsa later on is perfect. Under the cover that goes, and on with a little bit of pineapple. I'll probably make a sweet and sour something out of the rest of that pineapple later on. If not that, I might make it jelly for some sort of dessert. Now I've got a little bag of cheese that had just a little bit left in it, so I'm using that up. And I've also got a little bag of mozzarella, which needs to be used up as well. So I'll probably make a tuna casserole out of the rest of that mozzarella in a day or two. Onto a rack and into the oven, and that's how it turned out. Half a slice of one of those is perfect for me. We had the rest for lunch the next day. And the cats are doing a little spaz attack, so I decided to bring you on for a bit of a look and finish off this video with Barney and Princess Patches. Well, everybody, that is the end of the second week of the Pantry Challenge, and I hope you enjoyed it all. There's a few bits and pieces in there. There's meal preparation and a bit of preserving and just general everyday stuff, which I thought I would bring to you besides just what I eat, which is boring. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a big pineapple-y thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, think about subscribing. That would help my channel out tremendously, and I'd love to see you. Alright, that's it for me from now, and I hope you enjoy the video, and I'll see you again very shortly. Bye, friends.